believe, yes, I believe you died for me on Calvary. So here I am on bended knees.
We are on session 6. We're going to continue on here talking about Jesus, what he said about anger. So this is part 2. We're still in the 3rd chapter of our book, The Christian in Anger. Jesus switches over to a courtroom scene here in verses 25 and 26. Because he's saying you need to make it right with this person. You need to agree with this person. This guy that once was your brother, your friend, your ex-friend, or whatever, your ex-boss. You need to make it right with them. He says, because if not, you're going to get delivered over to a judge who's going to hand you to an officer. You're going to get thrown into prison. And he says, you're not going to get out of there until you have paid the last penny. And so this courtroom scene shows up here as Jesus is talking about anger. He's saying you've got to deal with this or you're going to have a lot of problems. You're going to pay the piper on this with your anger because you're going to still start building up all this broken relationships that you have in your past that you've never reconciled. Jesus also quotes it again here in Luke 12, verses 58 and 59. He says, when you go with your adversary to the magistrate, make every effort along the way to settle with him, lest he drag you to the judge deliver you to the officer, and the officer throw you into prison. He says, I tell you, you will not depart from there till you have paid the very last mite. It's going to cost you the very last penny. There's some bitter fruit that comes from being angry. And you can imagine being imprisoned, what it's like. And I tell people that you will become, spiritually, you will become stuck. You will not be able to move. You're going to stay in the same place spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. And in my mind, you're going to be going downhill. You will not be able to grow in the Lord because you're trapped by anger and unforgiveness. So many people have all these broken relationships in their past. They've never reconciled them, and then they wonder why they're so angry. And if you have that in your past, you're going to be dealing with a lot of anger. What is the answer? The answer always is, as much as you can, in your heart or in person, do whatever it takes, but go and reconcile with that person. I just saw that happen on this 4th of July weekend that we just had. One of our family members went to go see another family member, and they had not spoken to each other in about 2 years. And it was all over something. They got mad at each other. They didn't talk to each other. And now they had to face each other in a family gathering. And that's always interesting, isn't it? You got somebody you haven't talked to. They're mad at you. You're mad at them. And you get together for a family gathering. And now you got to face each other. Oh, aren't those wonderful gatherings? And I saw the beauty of it as they both talked to each other and they forgave each other right there. They hugged each other. And it was healed. It was healed right there. And it's funny that one person, I knew the one person, they were always speaking bad. They were always speaking bad. They were always speaking bad. The anger was always there with that one person. And so it was good that they were able to reconcile because that begins to deal with the anger issues in our heart. Nothing will be left when anger is done with you. And that's the whole thing. These people build up for so much and they lose so much, and it's going to cost you the very last penny. That's part of the bitter fruit of anger. You see the escalation again here with anger, verses 21 through 26 often leads to adultery. We're going to see that in the next session with Samson, sexual sin. People that get angry, a lot of times they're upset. They go out and do a lot of crazy things, which leads to divorce, which leads to the breaking of vows. All these are in order. Isn't that interesting? They're just in direct order, one piling up on top of the other. A root cause of anger is broken relationships. If you have a lot of broken relationships in your past, you will have a lot of anger in your future. Every broken relationship causes a lot of anger. That's just the way it is. It really is. When you have something that's broken with somebody, you are going to express a lot of anger. This leads me right into this next thing, and I'm going to keep it in a general term. But so many people who have problems with anger also have problems with sexual sin in their life in all types of ways and fashions. Isn't that interesting that right after talking about one A, anger, he leads right into another A, adultery, the sexual sin. And these two are connected together. A lot of men, especially I've talked to men, counseling men, they don't realize that when you are angry, you secrete hormones in your body that are also secreted when you are having sex. Okay, so you get aroused, anger, and what are you looking for? You're looking to be comforted. You're looking for sex. And so when you're upset with somebody, I've seen so many men do terrible things in sexual sins, all because they were angered with somebody and they're upset. And a lot of guys don't realize that. When you're angry with somebody, all this stuff starts flowing in your body, and it's the same thing that happens to you when you're having sex. So these two things get very connected, and we're going to see that a lot, especially in Samson's life, how he expressed his anger, he was having sex, expressed his anger, he was having sex with a prostitute, expressed his anger, having sex with Delilah. He just from one place to another. And so this is thing that opens the door for a lot of problems. Years ago, I was looking for a CPA to do my taxes. My taxes were, in this particular year, were very complicated, and so I needed a CPA. And so I went to a pastor friend, and I said, hey, can you recommend a Christian believer that's good, that can do my taxes? And he says, yeah, I have a CPA friend that you can use. So I called this guy up, and I met with him at a Starbucks, and I handed him all my paperwork, and he told me he was a believer, told me what church he went to, he was telling me about the Lord and all that stuff. I go, ooh, great, wonderful, this is going to be great. I go, man, if you do good work here, I'm going to hire you from now on. You're going to be my CPA that's going to handle my taxes and stuff. And so from there, he needed a little bit more information, so I emailed him a couple of times, got his information. He told me roughly how much he was going to charge. It's going to be like $299, somewhere around there, $250, $300 to do all this. I said, great, that's wonderful. So I'll pay it. I go, because I had a lot of stuff happening. To make a very, very long story short, he sent me a bill for $2,400 to do my personal taxes. And he says, because you're a pastor, I'm going to give you a discount of $1,000. So I'm only going to charge you $1,400 to do your taxes. And I'm a lot more sanctified now than I was back then. I was really upset. I was upset at him. I was upset at my pastor friend who recommended him. And I was really, really, really mad. And I thought, oh, and now I thought, how can I get out of this? How do I get out of all this mess? And I was so upset, and I thought, well, maybe if I go talk to my pastor friend, he can go talk to this guy or something. I didn't even want to talk to the guy. I didn't want to see the guy. I go, you can keep my taxes, And I was I was enraged. I was really, really mad. And again, part of the anger that came out of me was because he was a Christian. And he knew I was a pastor. And he had already told me it was going to be for this amount of money. And I'm thinking, oh, man, this guy. And so I went to that pastor. And you know what? Anger escalates. And you start talking. And when I got over there to my pastor friend, I said, Pastor so-and-so, I said, that guy's a snake. That's the way I told him. He's a snake. He snaked me, I'm so upset over what he did. Well, I called them and I told him, I'm really upset that you charged me this and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I ended up paying him $990 to settle that whole thing. And I go, where are you at right now? I'm going to take the check to you. When he opened that door, I was ready to tell him, there's your blankety blank check. I was ready to say that. And I just handed him the check and I said nothing. And he was saying, wait, are you still upset? It took me like 2 weeks to calm down. And I finally called him and I apologized to him. I'm not using him anymore. But isn't that something when we're in these moments like this, how much anger we will express? And like Bonnie said earlier, I didn't realize I was capable of that kind of anger. Well, of course we're fine and everything's good. But when you get in the heat of the moment, and there's that injustice that's been done. There's a thing that's wrong. You've been wronged. I mean, that was wrong. You're telling me 10 times the price. I mean, no, this is wrong. It just brings out the worst of us. But in the end, I knew this teaching about anger, and I knew I had to call. And I did apologize. And to this day, I'm not as angry as I used to be. I don't have the anger that I used to have towards him. And I feel like if I see him somewhere, I would be at peace about it. But we must make effort to reconcile with people. In the next session, we're going to talk about Samson and anger. And we're going to look at his incredible feats that he did. But he was a very he-man with a she problem. And that's what we're going to deal with in the next session.
You give me strength to run the race with my hands in head lifted high.